All right. Now, why don't you talk about the Northern Lights, which is Saturday, August 7th. The program here is almost like a tradition, another tradition of our music festival, is to play music of the Scandinavian countries.
Well, Door County has lots of Scandinavian connections, and our festival, from its founder, Thor Johnson, has direct connections to John Sibelius. And so it always just feels right to play music of Sibelius and other Scandinavians at our festival, and we've done a lot of them, Grieg and Nielsen and many others.
That's right.
And this concert will combine a wonderful variety of musical styles. I mean, if we start at the end of the concert with Sibelius' Second Symphony, we were talking about Tchaikovsky's First Symphony and how his style evolved. Well, just from Sibelius' First Symphony to his second, there's an amazing progression from these sort of long romantic melodies in the First Symphony to much more concise, economical writing in the Second Symphony.
Well, you know what happened to him? He was searching for his voice in the First Symphony, emulating voice of Tchaikovsky and Dvorak. In the Second Symphony, he found his own voice, and that is the main difference.
That's very true. And it has a tremendous power, because by the time you actually get a long, broad tune, like you get several places, many places in the First Symphony, it has tremendous impact. The last movement, even still, he's working in a motivic fashion. And Sibelius talked about this vision, if you will, of having these pieces of stained glass down on a floor as though put there by the Almighty, and his job was to piece them together in a structured way. And that's very clear, that analogy, when you think of the Second Symphony.
Solving the puzzle.
Solving the puzzle.
Yes.
But although that sounds cerebral, this is one of the most popular of Sibelius' symphony because it's very satisfying. The first movement has a unique, sort of idiosyncratic beginning, but very lyrical, and the scherzo movement is really brilliant. You know, it's not often that you get 6 notes, 6 beats to a bar as a scherzo, but here you have it. And that's contrasted with a terrific trio. And the slow movement is very sort of long-breathed and lyrical and leads in a wonderful way, just like the Fifth Symphony of Beethoven, right in to the last movement in D major.
Do you know that I consider the second movement as a ballad, as a story, which is told by very old person with a long white beard, with a many years of storytelling experience, and he starts, once upon the time before the ice age in Scandinavia, one dinosaur told his friend, I misplaced my bottle of scotch. And that story goes on from that point.
Well, Sibelius was known to like certain spirits, and not just the folkloric kind. So that may be an apt analogy. But that
I'm not saying that this story is autobiographical. No, it relates to the composer.
In unique ways that inform your interpretation, I'm sure. Yes.
Thank you.
And complementing this magnificent, noble symphony by Sibelius will be music from Estonia, the composer Arvo Pärt. We do the piece called Fratre.
Well, that composer was absolutely unique in our days in the Soviet Union because, as you know, Estonia was part of our Federation of 16 republics, and because all of us were subject to quite a strict censorship from Department of Culture, what to write and when to write and what to highlight, And the composers were encouraged all the time to highlight the goodness of Communist Party and the happiness of Soviet people and the incredible progress which we all made in a world being the best country and the most progressive country in the world. Arvo Pärt somehow did not hear those messages.
You didn't get the memo.
Because his circle of ideas was always very spiritual, very deeply spiritual area, and he was only writing about existence of man under God. And he came across very interesting style of music which appears on a piece of paper primitive or simplistic, with a few notes and very few rhythmical deviations and very few modulations, and yet it is a strikingly original, fresh, and very compelling.
It appears extremely economical on the page, and then in sound is highly potent.
Right.
And as you say, very, very spiritual. His pieces, he's not a pops composer, Arvo Pärt.
No.
His music tends to deal with matters of the soul, and I think it will complement these other works. And of course, between the majesty of the Sibelius and the soulfulness of the Pärt, we have another return artist, and that would be the wonderful, brilliant young percussionist Lisa Pegger, playing what will again be a first performance at Peninsula Music Festival.
Well, you forgot to say that this piece by Arvo Pärt will be also first performance, and it will be piece for strings, the solo violin, and timpani playing few notes. So you could see the spiritual world, also economical in orchestral colors. All right, and the string sound will be more like a choral tones, long choral tones,
Yes.
maybe muted, like a hum with a solo violin. But then